Greetings, one and all.
Hello.
Welcome to, well, it's Spooktober now, isn't it? This is the
Yeah.
first today.
Best time of the year.
I was going to say it's your favorite month, isn't it?
It's when everything is better. Everything
It
is
is.
great.
I'm getting more into Halloween with each year. It's yeah, it's weird as I get older and I'm further removed from my childhood. Somehow it becomes more appealing. It's weird, but yeah, I think it's good to get into the spirit of it. I'm hoping to do a bunch of happy hours talking about some horror movies. So I'm actually going to be doing one tomorrow night on The Thing. So that should be good fun.
Ooh.
And yeah, I got a few more lined up, and I might stream myself playing some horror games. We'll see what I can dig up.
Hell yeah.
You're always good for like recommendations for good horror stuff.
It's funny because I've seen billions of horror things and I have like 5 recommendations. It's like, yeah, horror's it's a bit disjointed. It's we got a lot more bad than good, but I guess that applies to all genres in a lot of ways.
I think so, yeah. But it is a tricky one to get right. It's a genre that's gone through, well, a lot of trials and tribulations.
That it has.
But anyway, well, for this evening, anyway, we're all about questions and answers because we've got a whole bunch of super chats that we had left over from Open Bar 67. So I think we should just dive right in and see if we can answer them for people.
Yeah.
Okay. Play the High Note says, if a TV series about the 2016 MAGA movement gets made, Aidan Scott from One Piece should 100% play Milo. Milo Yiannopoulos, yeah. He does look a bit like him, actually, with the blonde hair. So I'm not sure he'd want to, though. But I like his character. Is it Sanji? He plays the chef. Yeah, he's cool as fuck. I like him. Zach Winters says, The Little Platoon, is it true that you haven't watched past episode 3 of Arcane? Because to shortly put it, you thought it was very good / heavily enjoyed it. I don't know if it's true or not that he's not seen all of Arcane. Did we talk to him about that?
Check it out if he hasn't.
Yeah. It's it'll engouden your life.
It's a neat one.
Yeah. Silk Crayfish says, apparently Filoni once said that he doesn't like to be bound to what came before him when writing. It limits his opportunities, and people want him put in charge of Star Wars. Yeah.
Sorry, but that's just a skill issue. If you are like, I can't take all of this past work because I can't make anything new, it's like, oh, well, you just suck then.
I mean, this was really his chance to show what he could do as a showrunner and as a storyteller. Like, this is his first big live action gig by himself. And man, I think it's been appalling. The writing has been so dumb. I don't know how it suckered so many people into believing that it's good. It is, we talked about it obviously each week, and Thrawn's just the perfect example. You've squandered like this amazing character that should have been built up into something awesome, and he's just a guy who like wastes. He has got every possible advantage and still loses, but then acts like he's won. That's baffling. Grimnack says, cheers, gentlemen. My 1-year-old daughter is absolutely obsessed with watching Lord of the Rings with me. I'll put it on, she'll hear the music and start getting super excited. Definitely got blessed.
Great
well
stuff.
Done. Yeah, you should keep her then. Don't throw that baby away.
But we'll keep this one. It's all right.
Yeah, if she ends up being a total Lord of the Rings nerd, well, good on you, man. Well done. Rosie McRose says, Mauler, would you ever consider doing EFAP movies for Kick-Assia, Suburban Nights, and To Boldly Flee? Make sure to invite Dev. He might be the only one who knows more channel awesome lore than me.
Yes, that's definitely on the cards. We would consider that. Those are the like nostalgia critic movies that he made.
Yeah.
So it'd be some concentrated cringe, but also fun.
I think that was my like low end of the benchmark when I first decided to try and make a movie, like a short film that we funded.
Well, as long as it's better than that.
Yeah, as long as it's better than that. Well, I'm not the worst movie maker on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. There you go.
Next up is probably Space Cop. So if I can do better than that, then again, I'll be slightly happier. But next one is Fleemegates says, if Rags and Fringy were to marry, which one would be the wife? Tricky. Rags is a doggo, and Fringy's
Rags
a
is often
doctor.
the girl in a lot of EFAP lore, so I guess that answers that.
Yeah, fair play. Derek says, I watched The Equalizer 3, and it was refreshing to see a badass male hero. So few left, it seems. That is true. The movie seems to have bombed, but it's nice to see Denzel back.
Yeah.
Just Dutch says, gents, have you seen the 2011 film The Raid? If you haven't, I highly recommend. Great action film. That would be a great EFAP. Cheers. Yeah, I've seen The Raid. Very much enjoyed it.
Good
Good
stuff.
movie. Zodlander says, just finished One Piece. It gave me some good Dick Tracy and Cutthroat Island vibes. The costume design gave that real comic book feeling, and the characters felt fleshed out. I was hooked by the story. Skull, cheers. Nice one, man. And yeah, it's fun. The characters are likable. I think it does, I guess, pretty good justice to the manga. Not being an expert on it, but it certainly feels like it. Yeah, hopefully they do a good job with season 2. Case the Ace says, hello all, I love all your content. I wanted to recommend the movie Digstown to the drinker. It's a boxing movie that's essentially The Hustler and Roadhouse in one movie. I think you'll love it. Roadhouse? I'm sold. Thanks, man. Kerry Jones says, I just think super chats will be abused come the time of elections. Stop free speech because you have to pay for it.
It stops free speech because you have to pay for it.
Yeah, but like you don't have to send super chats.
Yeah.
Plus, I think you can pretty much guarantee we're not going to be talking about the election on open bar. So, you know.
I don't think you guys would want us to talk about the election on open bar.
Can you imagine a Welshman and a Scotsman drunk trying to like make sense of American politics as well? I mean,
you should vote for Clem Biston. He's one of the lesser known dudes because he wants
I'm going to vote for Kang and Kodos, to be honest. I think
can't vote for both of them, you ridiculous ape. God.
Oh, no, the two-party system. Heartbreak Ridge says, thoughts on the new Argyle trailer? Maybe a live reaction. Looks awesome. Can't wait. Yeah, it's like people are pointing out, it's kind of like Romancing the Stone, but for the modern era. And yeah, I can go with that. I'll be intrigued to watch it at least. So yeah, I would give that a go. Dredge says, great news. I should be getting the brain tumor removed next week. God bless and have a good one, you all.
Wow.
Awesome, man. I mean, best of luck. Hope everything goes well and you make a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
Intelligent Crayon Eater says, video idea. Fall from grace of True Detective from the highs of season 1 to the disaster of season 2. What season 1 did right and how season 2 failed to follow the formula. I mean, I might need someone else to make that because I'm not really a True Detective expert. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen season 1. I can't remember if I saw season 2. I remember everyone hating it, and then yeah, definitely not seen past that. But I like season 1 a lot. Obviously, everyone does as well.
Oh yeah, for 2 reasons. But anyway, Samson the Mighty says, Drinker, say it ain't so that they have hired Jar Jar Abrams to do a remake of the awesome 80s sci-fi fantasy Crawl. I have such fond memories of that movie. It's a fun movie. Can you do a Drinker recommends? I probably could, yeah, or at least a Drinker's extra shots. Yeah, why have they got J.J. Abrams doing this? Why'd you remake it anyway? Fuck off. I hate this shit. Lane Hirschberger says, Drinker, did you finish One Piece? Any opinions? Yeah. I spent a lot of time talking about One Piece and how I liked it, and I even did a review on it. So, yes. Mickey R says, Drinker, a bottle of the oldest Scotch whiskey or a dirty weekend with Tatiana? I can have a dirty weekend with Tatiana anytime, so that's no hook for me. But the oldest Scotch whiskey? Yeah, I'll do that. Sign me up. I wonder what the oldest one actually is. Hold on. Oldest Scotch. Got to be a couple hundred years old. Oh yeah, Blair Castle whiskey, 1833, the world's oldest Scotch whiskey.
Ooh.
So it's almost 200 years old. Crikey, that'd be pretty cool to drink.
Yeah,
I mean, it might taste like absolute garbage. The problem is once it's out the cask and it's into the bottle, it's not going to mature anymore. So if it was crap when it was put in, it's still going to be crap now. But yeah, I like how they summed it up here. There's a news article about it. Whiskey distilled almost 200 years ago and sipped by a young Queen Victoria has been found hidden behind a cellar door in Blair Castle in Perthshire. Understood to be the oldest known Scotch whiskey in existence, it will soon be offered for sale at auction. That's pretty cool.
Imagine how much it'll go for.
I know. I mean, like to own that, would you even drink it if you own something like that?
I don't think so. Well, maybe taste it, but you know,
once you've opened it, though, eh?
Yeah,
you'd probably just put it in a glass display case and hope no one burgles you. Cobus Juber says, a toast to Tim. Yeah, R.I.P. to Tim. Passed away last week. Ninja Stewart says, "Hi, Critical Drinker. This is Stuart, a friend of Kanan and Danny from that 30-minute live stream that you went on yesterday. I really appreciate you doing that. Shows how much of a cool dude you are. Keep up the awesome content." Thank you, man. And yeah, it was nice to talk to them. Yeah, they only wanted to take up 30 minutes of my time, so I was like, cool, okay. Yeah, they've just got a tiny little channel. I think like 50 subscribers or something, but like I met one of them at Anime Matsuri and asked me if I would come on. And I was like, yeah, sure. When I find the time, I'll do it. So I'm glad I was able to make the time. Elias Iosophides says, "Hello, gents. Favorite cinema years? Mine are 1993 to 1998. That's very specific.
Yeah,
There's some good stuff in that time.
I guess 99 wasn't cool enough to join that club, huh?
I think for me, it would be like 1980-ish to 91, because in that time you've got the Indiana Jones movies, you've got Terminator, you've got Aliens, you've got Predator. What else would you have? It's like E.T., things like that. That would probably be my pick.
Mine's probably going to be skewed a little further forward. I probably want to end so that I include Lord of the Rings.
That's fair play. Yeah. Jan says, "The compliments for One Piece are getting offhand. I've seen people calling the source material Shakespeare level of writing. As good as it is, it's still mediocre at best when compared to other anime or manga of the same genre." I mean, I'd have to take your word on that one because I'm not an expert on it at all. I mean, I certainly wouldn't compare it to Shakespeare. Certainly not what we got in the show. It's just fun. It's like,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
doesn't have to be like super deep or anything.
I don't feel like myself or Drinker have been that extreme with praising One Piece.
Carrier, a Raccoon City story says, What's up, Open Bar crew? Just a heads up to Drinker and anyone else interested. The episode 2, Right Place, Wrong Time, drops tomorrow Friday the 29th. Full episode available at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's obviously past now, but I've watched it myself, actually. I sat down and watched it last night, and it's really good. I know,
what was the show, sorry?
So it's like a... You know the cutscenes you get in the Max Payne games? So it's done like a graphic novel with, illustrations, voiceover, that sort of thing, sound effects. It's like that, and it's like a detective noir story set in Raccoon City shortly before the zombie outbreak and stuff. And it's got Umbrella, it's got like some of the main characters like Annette Birkin and Chief Irons and stuff. And it's really good. It's very atmospheric. It's really got the look and feel of like Resident Evil, like the classic stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend it for people. Samson the Mighty says, "Mauler, to describe woke media with a Buffy quote, it would be this, Spike. Just can't take all of this mamby-pamby boo-wooing about the bloody Indians. You won all right. It's what conquering nations do. It's what Caesar did." Finish quote.
Oh, sorry. So you're saying, yeah. Why am I blanking on the episode name? I hate doing that because like it makes me think that I don't remember shit all about Buffy, but I do. It's Pangs, I think. It's the episode with the Thanksgiving, and it would be one of many episodes where if anyone said Buffy was woke, you might want to rewatch it because it's yes, there's the main character is a girl who kicks everyone's ass. That is true, but you also have a lot of perspectives in that show that are very sort of 90s liberal, I would say.
Yeah, which makes them a fascist by today's standards.
I was going to say today's standards would hate Buffy a lot, and you're right, yes. Basically, the whole episode, it's about Buffy desperately trying to get some level of normalcy now that she's moved out of her house, and she wants to have a good Thanksgiving. She wants to make a dinner, and she wants everyone to come over, and she wants it all to be awesome, instead of relying on her mum to do everything every year. The thing is, because it's Buffy, they like erupted ancient Native American spirit who wants to possess and kill people as revenge for what was done to his people initially in America or whatever, right? So they then have Giles, whose POV is basically like, this is dumb as fuck, that he would have that perspective, like none of us have anything to do with it, and that we need to stop him because it's only going to lead to people dying, which is not good. Willow's perspective is like, yes, but his people were annihilated. Like, surely he has some point of view that's actually fair here to recompense, or at least why do you think a vengeful spirit exists in the fucking first place? Buffy doesn't care. She just wants to get the food done. And they keep arguing back and forth and back and forth. Xander's like dying of a crazy ghost sickness, and he's just like upset. And I think at some points people will be like, "What do you think, Xander?" And he's just like dying. But then the best part is, yes, Spike is tied up on a chair, and eventually he cuts into the like back and forth with just shut the fuck up. You won. You came. You killed them all. You won. Get over it. It's funny as hell, like all the different points of view, but. The episode itself, I don't think takes a harsh stance in terms of what's correct, except that when the guy comes to kill them all, Willow starts fighting back straight away. And it's like, well, looks like when it comes down to it, you know what you're going to
do. No, it sounds like a good one. Timmy04 says, Drinker, Mauler, what's the most recorded hours you have on a game?
Probably League of Legends. Back when I played it a shit ton. Obviously don't really do it these days. But I don't know what it would be in terms of hours, but too many is the answer.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you're just talking like online games and stuff, just like stuff that you play for a bit of fun with your friends or whatever, it would probably be the Modern Warfare games, like 1 and 2. Just played it all throughout, like, especially during lockdown, because you couldn't really hang with your friends, if they were like further away or whatever. So you just do stuff like that just to like chat with them and stuff and hang out, and so we ended up doing a shit ton of that. But in terms of single player like campaigns, might be something like Final Fantasy VII, because I played the shit out of that game, like completed it about 3 times and basically just got my characters to a point where they were essentially undefeatable. Because even if they did all get killed, they would just use final attack materia to cast a phoenix, and it would bring them all back to life. It's like so they couldn't die. But yeah, probably something like that, I would say. The provocateur extraordinaire says, James Blonde was my least favorite Bond. I'll take Connery any day. I hear the shootist is Daniel Craig Bond done right. Check out that 1976 classic. I have, and it's good. Ithulu says, audiences want fun Brosnan / Moore fun adventure Bond, not gritty. Nolan is a bad choice and will get excessively complicated, joyless Craig-esque Bond.
No, I don't agree with that.
What's that?
I don't agree with that at all. I think Nolan doesn't do dark and gritty in the same way that like some of the worst of the Craig era was. I think we should give Nolan a chance to be able to capture something of a Bond that we maybe haven't seen at all.
Yeah. I think he might struggle a bit with the attitude of Bond, like giving him that real personality, because sometimes his characters can be a little bit lacking in that. But I think some of it's going to come down to finding the right actor for the role. Will he make the plot needlessly convoluted? Not sure. Obviously, it's a thing he likes to do, but like I feel complex storytelling is going to fit really well within the spy espionage genre. Like it's kind of what you would want.
Betrayals and twists and realities about organizations that we didn't realize at first, and something of an intertwining of character dynamics. This is possible because I thought Oppenheimer was pretty good. So
he's definitely not going to produce. He's not going to produce stuff like the Roger Moore Bond. No. I think we can say that safely. Probably not the Pierce Brosnan one either, but I don't know. If you can find some halfway house between Brosnan and Craig, I could live with that. Samore says, keep Bond in modern times, spying against communist China. Bring back the gadgets, humor, and loose continuity with the pre-Craig era. It wasn't broken. I just don't think Hollywood would have the balls to like portray China as the bad guys now.
I just don't know why we need to do that era again as opposed to trying something a little bit different again. Not even so different that it's not Bond, different in the sense that was talked about, right? That he's interested in going back to when the books were originally setting Bond to be. I think I wouldn't mind giving him a chance to try and reinvent him a little bit, but also stick to what a lot of the classic understanding of Bond is.
I think this is what they've always struggled with ever since, really since the Cold War ended. Like the idea of a gentleman spy, just always was going to seem antiquated in a modern world and like a post-Cold War world. And GoldenEye dealt with it to some extent, and I think Pierce Brosnan kind of got away with it because it was still the 90s. It was like quite a long time ago now. The Daniel Craig era just tried to move away from that altogether and have him be this big lumbering special forces guy, essentially, who occasionally wears a tuxedo. And so it was just didn't love it. So if you can take him back to that Cold War era, I think I'd be in. I'd be interested to see what he could do anyway. Hikira says, I love Fringy showing up in the intro on No, it'll be fine. So now it's No, it'll be fine. That's very
True.
good. Jeff Peterson says, for Platoon and Mauler 2, what's your approach to those people who conflate enjoying a movie or show and that movie or show being well written or crafted? How do you attempt to win them over?
It's usually pretty easy because the way it worked back in the day with someone who said TLJ was not only like good, but that to call it bad would be insane because of subjectivity / the efforts the film goes to do this, that, and the other, and that creating feelings of super enjoyment are obviously essentially the same thing as it being well crafted at that point, because that is the purpose of film, to make you feel. And then I was like, okay, so like The Room is good then. And it's like, whoa. And it's like, well, I mean, the film creates great joy in the world, but it seems like we all agree that it's bad. So what's going on there? And that's a good place to start, because it'll get the gears turning in terms of like, wait a minute, I guess, because I've had no problem my whole life accepting that there are things I like and enjoy that are also just stupid or insane or crap, like in terms of craft. It's fine with me. But a lot of other people do the thing of like, if this thing is bad, then that means I'm bad. It's like, no, it's fine. Enjoying goofy stuff is totally chill. It's fine. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, we'll get you through this. Cosine Alucard says, this super chat is for you to buy and read Starship Troopers. Other than soldiers' deaths, the writer's depiction of basic training was exactly how I felt when I went. It's on the officer's reading list for a fucking reason. I've heard this. I've heard people say this, that Starship Troopers is like recommended reading for like officer training. I don't no idea why. I guess it must just get the climate and the culture and stuff of like the military really accurate.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm intrigued to read in that case. TGV Monster says, have you guys checked out the Resident Evil 4 remake DLC Separate Ways? It's incredible and completes the game. I haven't yet actually, but I'm excited to play it. So I'm
hearing good things about it.
It's so you're playing Ada Wong's side of things.
You're playing Wong.
What's she gonna do with that Wong?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've seen some of the death animations where you've got to go through. There's always a laser corridor, like ever since the fucking Mila Jovovich movies, and yeah, how it can go horribly wrong. But yeah, I'd play it. I would be lying if I said Ada is my favorite character from Resident Evil, and the new voice actress hasn't done much to win me over. But you know what? I will try it.
I mean, I think Az said he enjoyed it, so
yeah, he's a harsh judge. So
recommendation,
yeah. Rosie McRose says, Grace Randolph used to write for Marvel and DC. Is that true? Jesus Christ. You let anyone in. Gabriella says, hello, Drinker. Question to you all. Do you read sci-fi books, and do you ever wonder why more of it isn't adapted into film, e.g. Alistair Reynolds, Ian Banks, or older classics? Is Marvel DC all there is? Yeah, I mean, I used to read sci-fi and fantasy a lot more. Like, not many of the big classics, just like whatever was in my local library. And so, pretty forgettable, but I enjoyed them at the time. And yeah, why is it not adapted? I just don't think, generally speaking, sci-fi has been that easy to market, especially hard sci-fi, where it's like really, gets into the weeds of like how the technology works and stuff. Like that's a pretty niche audience you're talking about there. Whereas you get something like Star Wars, which is just a space opera instead. So it's just like the adventure side of science fiction, but without any of the science to back it up. That's obviously what gets the general audience. So, yeah, I think that's probably why more of it hasn't been done over the years. Ministry of Wrongthink says, Space Whale getting hit by mines. Fuck this shit. I'm out. Jumps to hyperspace. Yep.
Yeah, with no damage,
Yep.
Nice and consequential. I would have liked a whale flash to splatter across their ship. That'd have been neat.
Yeah. Maybe even like have Ahsoka look kind of regretful, like, oh my god, I led these beautiful creatures into this massacre, and now they're all getting blown into chunky bits. You know,
No, that's
could
the
have been
thing.
something.
I'm starting to get to the point where there's so many missed opportunities from the writers. It's just like he just doesn't even think about it.
No,
Doesn't think about any of this stuff.
just doesn't think.
So one-dimensional.
Pirate Queen says, do you think the companies gave such an even-handed deal because they got what they wanted with force majeure? Well, it depends how many shows and stuff they end up canceling, I suppose, because that allows you to kill projects if in the event of strike action. A lot of people now are saying like it's actually going to result in fewer writers because they have the ability to fire pretty much as many as they want. Not sure what's going to come out of it. I guess the next few months are going to be interesting once everything settles back down, I guess, particularly once the actors work out some sort of deal. Nizanik says, hail everyone. I left this question on Tuesday, but I wanted to ask again. What are the best stories that revolve around a brother and a sister? Brother and sister stories. Crikey, what have we got?
They definitely exist, but it's drawing a blank already.
I can't imagine, like, it's a difficult dynamic to work on, really, isn't it? Because obviously you can't have romance enter into it, and it's just going to be like the same character dynamic you would have between two friends, but with just the added, like, we've known each other our whole lives, and I don't know, we fall out and stuff. So it doesn't seem like it would lend itself particularly well to storytelling if you're going to have them go on an adventure together. I mean, do we have to say like Luke and Leia? Like, kind of does revolve around them.
Don't worry, Spy Kids. There you go. They're brother and sister.
Yay!
We did it.
We did it. Paulus Plain says, the critical drinker, the origin of James Bond was a Royal Navy Reserve commander, the surface fleet, the fleet air arm, possibly an aircraft carrier pilot, or the submarine service. James Bond MI6 007. Yeah, actually, yeah. Good point. He was in the Navy. I know that much about him. Yeah, so if you were going to have him, say, fresh out of the service after World War II and going into spying, he was probably some kind of, kind of surface ship commander, something along those lines.
I can already imagine a fucking Disney level origin film. They get like the worst actor ever, and he's sitting around on a ship or whatever, and some people getting a drink, and some guy's like, "Hey kid, you ever have a martini?" And then he's like, "What about them?" He's like, "You ever stir them or shake them?" And then he's like, "You know where I'm going with this?"
Yeah, everything has to be explained.
Yeah.
Just before they they drive their ship upriver into Berlin to like blow up Hitler personally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Nizanik says, I ask so I can try to find ideas for my own story. So this was the brother-sister thing. Yeah, we were sort of drawing a blank, I'm afraid. This is what happens when you put us on the spot.
Drink is kind of highlighted. You have got the same dynamic there as good friends, but I guess you can have that they appeal to the fact that they know each other incredibly well because they grew up together, and you know they have unified interests in the sense of, I assume they're together this long, well past their family dynamic because they maybe they're bounty hunters, or maybe they work a store together they inherited from their parents. There's all kinds of different things you could do. It's just that I assume what Drink was getting at is like some avenues are blocked off because of the family aspects. Like obviously you can't make them romantic, but obviously you can still make it dramatic in a couple of ways. It's just I am legit drawing a blank on brother sister stories, even though I'm sure there's plenty. There's probably ones where I'd be like, oh yeah, of course that, and I just haven't said it.
Yeah, it's just we can't always like draw them off the top of our head, basically. Lover of Green says, hail to the panel. Have you guys seen The Owl House? It's a dark fantasy coming-of-age story akin to Buffy, but has stunning animation. Owl House has great writing, but was tragically cut short by Disney. Any thoughts? I've never even heard of Owl House, I'm afraid, so I don't know. Sophia Michelle says, Russell Brand, discuss.
I know him from a couple of movies.
Yeah, I talked to him once, but that's pretty much all I got. You know, wait and see what comes out from all this stuff. Porch Bandit Media says the whole strike felt like gatekeeping to me. The older, more prestigious generation asking for more, knowing that the newer young writers would get cut. Yeah, I mean, people have presented these kind of conspiracy theories about what was really motivating this strike. I guess until we see how it shakes out, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
Brick Apple says, my friends have always recommended me the IMDb top 250 movies of all time as a good place to be cultured in movies. But what movies would you all consider cultured?
Cultured?
I mean, I guess what they're saying is like movies that have real artistic merit or whatever, you know.
I mean, there's shit tons, and that list probably does contain a hell of a lot of them.
Be wary of online lists, because like you could look up like, I don't know, greatest horror movies of all time, right? And going on what Google presents to you, you'll get things like fucking The Nun, or you get like what was that one, Malignant or whatever. Like it sometimes just presents stuff that's come out recently, so it's like don't always believe.
Well, yeah, but IMDb is going to be like an aggregate list of rankings, so at least you get something there.
Yeah,
like you'll find a lot of things you'd recommend in that list, and the same for me. But to be honest with you, it's not going to be too different from just my favorite films. If it were for what I think of like have the most artistic value and integrity and stuff. Cultural, like if the question was more so like films to watch so that you can understand better the culture you're a part of. Let's say if you're in America or whatever, like I guess it would just be specific to the place, if that's kind of what you meant. Or culture online. You're gonna have to see all the most famous and memed movies. You know, stuff like Fight Club would be something to watch.
Yeah, I think when they
really
when they talk about cultured here, it's like, well, you know, movies that are considered high art rather than just popular or like, you know, popcorn movies or whatever. Like what really speaks to the human condition or whatever you want to consider there. Yeah, I mean, crikey, that's a pretty wide net to cast. Yeah, I would probably like, if you're looking for that kind of examples, like consult like multiple different lists and see if there's movies that keep cropping up again and again, and that'll probably give you a good opportunity. Like there's also there's a list of movies that have been preserved by like, I think it's the Smithsonian in the States as being like particularly like culturally or artistically significant. And not many films make it onto that list, so that's probably also a good place to start, I would say. Michael Nielsen says, thoughts on Firefly? Was it overrated?
It's possible that one could say that. It doesn't change the fact that it's pretty great. Like, the thing about it is that it was inevitably going to possibly be overrated because of the fact that everyone was desperately trying to get it back up, uncancelled. And it's like, what show would deserve the kind of fervor that got? And it's like, well, I mean, it was pretty good. Though I'm quite happy with Serenity as the film to cap it off, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it gave it a suitable like send off.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want Firefly without that cast and without Whedon behind it as well. Like, so just better to let it die.
Porch Bandit Media says, to be clear on my last super chat, I have little sympathy for the new writers who are bad or agenda pushers, but old writers are just as, if not more, guilty with pushing agendas.
Sure,
I mean, it depends on the writer, I suppose.
To an extent, everyone's running an agenda. If the definition was just like a point of view that you want to push and other people to agree with, like there's a lot of that in a lot of films. It's just, execution is super important, and some of the points of view can be fucking toxic or horrible. As for like, were writers maybe more subtle before than now? So maybe in mainstream stuff, I'd probably say yes. Because have you noticed that a lot of people have to say, like, did you not realize what the theme of an insert movie from 80s, 90s, or 2000s here, as opposed to now, where everyone knows exactly what the fucking movie had to say and they kind of hate it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think subtlety is lost. We were actually having a debate on, we did a recent EFAB about Ratatouille, and we were talking about whether or not Remy's motivation to cook Ratatouille was clear or not. And, you know, a suggestion was made that could have been made explicit, and I was just like, man, I almost every time there's a choice between having a line that's explicit or that you can pull together from lines, I always prefer the pull together.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's what's the best way of putting this? Like, as long as someone can reasonably infer that that's what the writer was trying to say about the character. You know, it shouldn't be so vague that it's like you've got really no clue unless you
I agree.
really do the writing for them almost.
And then it's like everyone's interpretation of what would be reasonable inference. It can be complicated, but
Yeah,
I think we all generally have similar lines.
You'd think so. The internet sometimes teaches us differently.
You'd think so.
John Okotree says, just found the Grizzy channel compiling Ahsoka reactions. Makes me laugh and sad as well. Those reactors will clap for literally anything. Jesus wept, man. I wonder how much of it is just performance. It's like they don't actually care.
You gotta keep that in mind. Don't be too black-pilled on it. A lot of people do it for money, which is normal. A lot of people do a lot of things for money.
Oh yeah.
In fact, you'd probably, if you, person who sent that message, knew that you could get, like, let's say $100,000 a year if you just uploaded for every Star Wars content, episodes of TV or movie, you just upload it with you going, whoa, oh my god, it's amazing, Vader, Jar Jar Binks and stuff, and you'd be like, yeah, you get 100,000 for that. You'd consider it, right?
I mean, I suppose so. Yeah.
I feel like everybody would consider it at the very least.
It's quite a legacy to leave behind, but you know.
Well, so a lot of them might just do it until they have enough money that they can make things they want to make. It's
always, it's possible. Royal Raptor says Andor is objectively the best thing that Disney has put out about Star Wars. Might be right.
Agreed.
Josh Kelsey gave us $20, so thank you. Demon Dog says, Muller, is there a chance that we will eventually get an EFAP movies for the Tremors films? It's one of my favorite horror franchises, up to 7 movies now.
I'd like to. Yeah, I love Tremors. It's awesome. Tremors is like The Mummy and like a few others, where it's this film that it does so many things so great, and yet somehow slips almost into being considered just good. It's like it should probably be thought of as great.
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, like from a screenwriting point of view, the script for Tremors is so tight and so efficient. Like it tells you everything within, you know, the absolute minimum amount of time, and it makes it look easy. It genuinely a great one for aspiring script writers to just study and watch how well it does all this stuff. It kind of devolves into absurdity with like the next few movies, but yeah, I think I checked out after part 3. I was just like, I can't take any more of this. But yeah, the first one was good. Well, great, should I say. Second one was a bit it just went from there. Ceteris Parabolus says, would Andor be well served if it sacrificed time to go do a Filoni fan service action scene every other episode, like Game of Thrones with tits and swords? So would it improve Andor if it just threw in a bunch of action sequences?
Okay, so. This is the thing. If like maybe me and Drinker made something and we were looking over it and it was everything we wanted was in there, but we realized maybe that it was an action TV show and that in episodes 1, 2, and 3 there was no action, I might, and I imagine you would too, be like, we should probably find a way to get it in. Even though the story has full integrity and everything we want, I can understand how this is going to be harder to convince people to stay in because hooks are a thing and, you know, audience engagement is a thing. This is why I don't really take much issue with people saying they were bored by Andor. The only response I have is like, well, if you watched the whole thing, then you gave it a fair chance. Or if you gave up, then maybe push through. You know, like what would have fixed Andor? It's like, unfortunately, it might be as simple as he should have referenced more things from the Star Wars world. And that would have given it a much better chance of being recognized. But that fucking sucks, man.
Well, the sad thing is, like, because Star Wars is in such a poor state now, it's almost like it was more appealing because it didn't reference the Star Wars universe as all that much.
I can tell you the EFAP guys were very happy to not see a single fucking Jedi. We were like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
They're all just different normal people. They're not some special individual that's going to have come from Order 66 that's on the run and going to fight Vader personally.
Yeah. COD 3 Warrior says, Smokey's back. Please pet the doggos on my behalf. Don't worry, I've done that plenty since then. Thanks, man. Crit Nature says, watch The Ring, chatto. I can't believe he's not seen The Ring.
He hasn't seen The Ring?
Well, I assume he hasn't.
New, or both?
Well, I assume he hasn't since they're telling him to do it. So might have come up in conversation the other night. Johnny
but
B.
he's
Customs,
like 1 billion years old. He's seen everything, right?
Well, you'd assume so, yeah. But maybe he's doing crazy stuff like going outside and
My
talking to normal
God.
people. I know. Sometimes people do
Dangerous.
that. I know. We can't have that here. Johnny B. Customs says, Chato, watch Bone Tomahawk, great Western horror. Robert Barros. Yeah, Robert Barassa says, Michael Keaton in Johnny Dangerously, a must watch. Nice. Cosmic Zombie says, has anyone on the panel seen the failed abortion that is No One Will Save You on Hulu? There was tons of potential, but it fails spectacularly. I haven't seen it, no. And by the
Not
sounds
even
things,
heard of
that's...
it. I don't think anyway. Do you know what it is, or?
No, hold on, let me check. An exiled, anxiety-ridden homebody must battle an alien who's found its way into her home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay. It's got 2.8 out of 5.
Oh, okay. Out of 5, that's a little bit better. I thought for a second they were saying out of 10. I was like, damn. Anyone in it? Anyone famous?
Geraldine Singer. Caitlin Deaver. Not really heard of any of these people. Yeah, don't know much about it, I'm afraid. Doesn't sound great, though. Excuse me. Kevin O'Neill says, speaking of Michael Keaton, watch Johnny Dangerously. Not my favorite Keaton movie, but easily my favorite Keaton role. Why do people keep bringing up Johnny Dangerously? Oh, guess it must be good.
I don't
know. Bird Up says, Michael Caine is proud of his role in Jaws 4, The Revenge. The reason? It paid for his house. Yeah, there's a famous quote for him where he was asked about the film being shit, and he's like, well, I've never seen the movie, but I've heard it's awful. But I have seen the house that it paid for, and it's fantastic. Yeah. I just thought that was a nice way of putting it, Michael. Absolutely. Good man. Lord Asterman says, just saw Netflix did a trailer for Onimusha, a series I grew up on. Holy shit, really?
What? Another? Damn.
Yeah, this is like that thing, you were telling me about like a couple of months back where you listed all these like video games adaptations that were in the works and we knew nothing about. It was all like just getting quietly worked on in the background. I guess this is another one.
Yeah, man.
So they're saying it looks terrible and doesn't even have Samonosuke, Jubei, or even Nobunaga. What's the fucking point then? How's it even Onimusha? Can you recommend me?
There's these adaptations that are happening where it's just like the ones that go completely away from the source. It's a pretty good guarantee that you should just ignore them. It's like why even fucking bother? Like I don't know what's going to take so long for them to learn this shit. Yeah. Even when I was a kid, they didn't learn this. You know what I mean? Like it's been that long that they still haven't learned. Why is an IP part? Because remember, I sit in the position that you don't have to be fully faithful or whatever to be good. But why are you taking an IP that is obviously famous and fun and people like it because it's presumably what's in it, and then you adapt not what's in it? What like?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the point in that case? It's just the name. You just want the name for the recognition.
What was the first thing with Twisted Metal? Everybody wants to know. It's like, what's Sweet Tooth like? And it's like, oh, well, it'd be funny if they were like, well, we didn't adapt that. We didn't think people would be interested.
Yeah. I mean, Onimusha is an interesting choice. Like, it's not obscure as such, but like, man, it's not exactly a big pop culture event these days. Like, a bunch of games from like the 2000s. I did like the first couple, though. It was like Resident Evil, but with swords. He's also asking, can you recommend me a drink to drown my sorrows as another franchise falls? I probably recommend that you have a Negroni cocktail because it's like hard and bitter and it'll get you drunk. So yeah, it'll fit with the theme nicely.
There was a bar I went to once that sold shots of, I think, what was labeled unicorn cum. I remember being like, I've got to buy that. Are you kidding me?
Oh, God. There was one like called a brain hemorrhage, and I think they mixed Bailey's with lime juice and a bunch of other things so that the Bailey's curdles and you had to chew it. It's like, no.
Why would you?
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just make it go away. Haywood Jablomi says, ads in my subscription service. Just let me go grab my eye patch and my peg leg. Yar, me mateys. Yep, good choice. Trevor Wingard says, what is with all these horrible Andor takes? You going to be okay, Mauler?
I'm fine. It's fine. I'm so used to it. Like, as Drinker is. A lot of people just fucking hate Andor.
Yeah.
That's like, all right.
That's the cross we have to bear, you see.
Yeah. We're heroes,
Yeah. Yukio says no nuclear families, even Japanese McDonald's ads.
Was that not? I thought it was. What is it? I thought nuclear family was mum, dad, and 2.5 children. Is it? I forget.
Yeah.
Because
So in this one, it's
McDonald's
just
had a
like
mum,
mum
dad,
and
and a daughter, right?
yeah. I mean, it's fairly close. You wouldn't think Japanese people would be keen on nuclear families, but you know. Yeah, I went there. It's too soon. Party Elm CV says enjoying the politics, Muller. Thoughts?
All of the thoughts, every day, all
Yeah.
day.
Jen Maicha says Endymion, Alberta is the greatest province in the Confederation. God save the king. I mean, I know fuck all about Canada, so I'll just take your word for that. Rolf says, howdy, gents. I'm curious if any of you are familiar with the old Justice League and Justice League Unlimited series and what your thoughts are. Some of my favorite series, Jon Stewart is the best GL. I don't know anything about the Justice League series. This must be an animated series. On that. Yeah. Joshua Henderson says Disney Star Wars is trash and KK is Palpatine. Short, simple, and to the point.
It's hard to disagree with a man who's so adamant and short-worded.
Rico-san says, a large complaint of woke content is the ambiguous good versus evil stance. The good guys are no longer good and the baddies are not so bad. Yeah, I think it's less about that because I think you can definitely have moral ambiguity in your storytelling. It's kind of interesting to pick apart, like, well, is it a matter of perspective or whatever? I think the problems come in when they show unquestionably horrible people being portrayed as good guys. That's when we really have an issue with it.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it, actually. That is the actual problem. A lot of people, because I get a bit worried when I hear people say, like, God, I hate it when we get, like, a bad guy who has a backstory that tries to, like, justify or something. You're like, whoa. Because knowing more about a bad guy's motivation that makes them a little bit more complicated is not a bad thing at all. We're totally chill with that. But you're right. It's when the sort of contents of their actions is at odds with the tone that they are delivered with in the story. We get told in a lot of Marvel and like Star Wars stuff that these wonderful people are just trying to do the right thing when we're seeing them do horrible things. We're like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Like Hera completely screwed up and she's gotten that new episode. It's so annoying. Like she should potentially be going into like, serving time. What she did was incredibly, like if you did that in any military, going against orders and getting men killed, like you achieve nothing, by the way. Like it's I don't know any world that you get off with like some higher up just going ignore everything. Well, you would in a corrupt system, I suppose. Which is like, are you trying to tell us that that's what's happening?
Again, yeah, like the writers just won't have thought like deep enough to even understand the problems that they created for themselves there.
No, yeah.
But yeah, the bare minimum, she should have been properly court-martialed by the military for her actions, and it's like, no, it's fine.
Especially with having been rewatching Farscape recently, like that is all about having villains being ambiguous in terms of just how evil they actually are, considering 2 of the series villains become team members.
Yep.
So it's it's complicated, and I love it. I do love it when things get that level of. It's one of my favorite things in media when a bigger bad guy appears and that the bad guy and the good guy have to work together even temporarily.
Yeah. Or yeah, they get thrown into some survival situation where it's like they got no option but to work together just to get out of that. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Snex says, Hail Drinker, have you seen the Jack Ryan series with John Krasinski? If so, would you recommend? Cheers. Well, he got buff and grew a beard, so that made him tough. And now he's Jack Ryan. So, yeah, I saw bits and pieces. I haven't watched it like religiously or anything. I liked what I saw, though. Yeah, I think he's a pretty good choice. He wouldn't have been my choice for Jack Ryan, but he really filled out the role well. So, good on him. I must get back into it at some point. Jay's gaping butthole says men need to flex on insecure hoes more often. They're crying too much and making kiddos weak. Yeah, fair play. Day Trippera says, as a woman, I want to see more Han Solo Star Wars and not Laura Dern with purple hair girl bossing Star Wars. Same goes with Marvel. I mean, we don't, yeah, we just like to see good characters, I suppose. Admiral Holdo was not one of those. I mean, again, she was a great example of a character that's presented as a hero, but actually is a fucking asshole throughout the entire movie and does horrendously bad things.
Do you remember Ratatouille? Because like I said, I was watching it recently, and the thing had this theory, and I just feel like it's so fucking true that we've been gaslit, and it's just like so obvious when you just start going through a lot of other movies. The girl in that movie, when we meet her, she's like sort of overthrowing the male almost protagonist because of her experience and her talents, and she's frustrated at the idea that she has to teach another person, sort of thing, who's just joined. But as the film goes on, she's aggressive, she's assertive, but that they eventually sort of fall for each other. And his teamwork with Remy, he's like becoming one of the greatest chefs of all time. Is the idea that like someone saw all of that and was like, women are underserved in media, and it's just like, I
Yeah.
think they were doing just fine, like with a lot of appearances. At that point, your only complaint is you want more of them, which is, like, to me, solved by being like, get out there and write them. There's no one,
Yeah,
like,
and well,
don't tell other
it's
people that they have to write that. That's weird.
it's that combination of like we want more of them, but also we have to put all these rules on how they can be portrayed that drastically hamper what you can actually do
Well,
with the
and
characters, because it's like, well, they can't be portrayed as like not not knowing what to do, or losing an argument, or not being as good as their male counterparts, like a million different things that we've seen. It ruins the characters then, because it's like, well, you don't like them because there's nothing to like. They're just unstoppable.
and the equally sad part is that some of them were like, yes, I will write them, and then they create some of the worst female characters in fucking history.
Yep. Yeah. Fulcrum says, "Have you seen the Daily Wire is doing Pendragon?" No, I don't know what they're
No.
doing there. Through the Wormhole says, "Guys, be real. The only outrage over the McDonald's ad was conservatives making up that people were outraged. Most people agree it was just cute." I honestly,
Dude, I'm so
don't...
fucking out of the loop on this McDonald's thing.
I know.
What the fuck's going on? What are you talking about?
I happened to look at Twitter one afternoon, and it's like suddenly this thing was just everywhere, and everyone seemed to have a take on it, and I don't really get what the fuss was about. Joshua Henderson says, SH gets what they're paid for because they decided to be woke. What's SH?
No, I got nothing.
Sorry. Yukio says they already made anime Einstein. It's called Dr. Stone. Okay.
All right.
Shock and Funk says, "Hey all, I highly recommend watching YMS's review of The Flash, Pure Gold." Yeah, that's his latest review, isn't it? I'm going to guess that he says it sucks. Jade Porcupine says, "What concerns me is that the lesson Hollywood will take away from Barbie, which is even more concerning because it might be true, is that misandry sells." I suspect that probably will be the lesson they'll get from that as well. That's the sad thing. Sparks says, "The Warhammer thing is not confirmed. Negotiations at the moment." That's surprising because it was publicly announced, so I would have thought they wouldn't have announced it unless it was pretty much good to go. Protectron says, "Hello from Ireland, Drinker. I watched the old streams for a good while, but this is the first one that I've got around to catching live." Nice one. Glad you could join us.
Yeah.
Timmy04 says, "What sports did you guys play growing up? Did you enjoy them?"
I mean, a very small amount of football, mostly rugby, and yes, I enjoyed rugby. But to be fair, I was huge, so I benefited from that. But obviously, I didn't go the route of becoming a rugby player. I instead was playing video games.
We did form a rugby team in my school, but it was kind of late on, and I don't think it went particularly far. We never really got beyond the training stage because we were kind of useless. We had like two guys who played rugby like outside of school that were like, they had the task of trying to turn us into players, and yeah, I think they gave up fairly quickly. There was a lot of injuries in the first few weeks, just like people absolutely barreling into each other, and just there was a lot of bruises and fucking, what do you call it? You know, when you get like whiplash, just basically that, like people getting taken down too hard. But yeah, for me, it was play football, just messing around with my mates at school. Played tennis quite a bit for some reason. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I think that was the two main ones for me. What's the next one? Mark Fragashine says, did you heard that off the record of Ragnarok manga, they fight mankind against gods? Tesla and Einstein are in it, but Einstein didn't fight. It's one of the best fighting mangas. The storytelling is also very good. And it's got Tesla and Einstein in it. Okay.
Interesting.
Grant says, can we get a video of Drinker ranking the Bond girls? Oh, yeah, I could do that. That'd be good fun, actually. Chernobog says, original comic book Bane is not a skinny guy that gets big with venom. He's already formidable and huge without the venom. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, okay.
That was just from the Batman and Robin movie. Like, he was kind of always big in...
the one everyone loved?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is that, yeah. But yeah, the Tom Hardy one, he was kind of just big naturally. Like, he just trained hard, I suppose. AJ Matheson says, if we agree that video game movies and TV are the next thing, what IPs and franchises are on your wish list? I think Dishonored in the style of Arcane would be awesome. I just finished A Plague Tale, and that would be great TV. I mean, I'd like to see the Uncharted games get done properly. That'd be nice.
I feel like Gears of War could be really, really good in a series of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Bioshock that's an easy fucking win for a TV show.
Yeah, that'd be a good choice. Yeah, as I've said before, I'm still waiting for a good Resident Evil adaptation, so that'd be nice. And probably a sort of accurate Tomb Raider would be nice too. Samurai D Phil says, why do the movie and TV industry act like they don't deal in customer service? Don't they understand that we pay and also demand quality? This should be a no-brainer. Yep, you'd think so. Chernobog says, Mueller said Ahsoka was rotten clown semen in his Star Wars Cannot Grow Up video. That is an affront to the ancient and noble art of clowning. But not semen.
Well, I'm sure the clowns will be okay with me saying that. It's just a joke. Don't worry, clowns.
Dredge says, I just want to fly my ship in D2. Halo Reach did it. Fair enough. Silk Crayfish says, read the Thrawn books after hearing the talk about Ahsoka. Now I am like, look how they murdered my boy. Also, the book would have been a great film trilogy. Yep. But now it's in the hands of Dave Filoni. Gator says, why not swap between happy hours and open bars? Free up more on your schedule. If you do a happy hour for the week, just save the open bar for next week. Well, I mean, we've kind of committed now for doing open bar weekly, so it's difficult for us to just then say, nah, we're not doing that. But I'm finding days when I can fit in the happy hours instead. So I think Tuesday nights is probably usually a goer for me. So that's probably when I would do happy hour streams. Intelligent Crayon Eater says, Disney girl bosses never have to worry about accountability because of reasons. It's sad and predictable. Reality be damned. Very true. Roaming Trend says, I did an intro for EFAP and Mootle. Who's next? So Roaming Trend's the one who did our open bar intro. Has he done one for EFAP?
I'm inclined to remember, I believe. Let me just, because I don't want to mix him up with someone else. I think we checked it out on the Meme Fap after the anniversary. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else. Oh, yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, it's a cool animation he made. The only problem, as we said, was that EFAP's whole thing is basically not having an opening. We just like crash into live streaming like every time. It's almost like the conversation never ends. It just, because we come in talking about something.
Yeah. No, I like that stuff. Intelligent Crayon Eater says, Star Wars Schrodinger's feminist. All females are super powerful and ignore orders from men and yet are somehow constrained by men and not responsible for their own choices. Yeah, that's it. It's whatever's convenient at the time. Niels Rain says, why doesn't Hera's son get trained by Luke? Because Luke doesn't exist in Ahsoka, don't you know?
So weird, but yeah, true. You could have 10,000 questions in relation to Luke Skywalker, but they're just not ready to use him, or they don't want to, or they hate him, whatever. Take your pick.
Yeah, it's because he's not a Dave Filoni original character, so of course he's not going to use him. Samurai D. Phil says, should we be against the message being subtle if the writing is solid? Hollywood always had agendas, booze, weed, countercultures, etc. They just used to be better at integrating it into the story. Well, I mean, I think you can you can work with most messages, I suppose, if you've got an agenda to try and put in, but as long as it's wrapped around a really good story and it's done in an intelligent and, like you say, a subtle way where it's not like overt, then you can for sure make it work.
And it's kind of complicated, right? Because would someone there's different conclusions one can reach. A lot of people like Bioshock. It's criticism of objectivism. It's like you can definitely go that direction, but you could also say it's criticism of human nature being at the core of destroying any system. Like there's no way to stop the fundamental, which is because I like to talk about it because I really find it interesting that everyone believes like you're an idiot if you don't see that Bioshock is making very strong political messages. And it's like, well, when you get to know Andrew Ryan, someone who I think a lot of people end up respecting in the game, mainly because of how much he's like, I want people to get what they create and what they earn and what they do. It all belongs to them. It shouldn't be taken by some system and used for other people and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I understand. And then like he wants everything to be free, to the market to be free in Rapture, but Fontaine, as you learn more about him, is like, I can make a shit ton of money if I do this, put this here, and do this, but the consequences are it's destroying and tearing society apart. So Andrew starts to put in regulations, and he starts to cheat and steal and to backstab in order to correct the errors in the system, not preventing something malicious from happening. And then it all crumbles because teams start to develop, loads of sabotage happens, and then the drug addicts get way too far with the splicing. The big daddies are running around, and everyone wants to harvest the little sisters. It's a complete fucking nightmare. And it's like, oh, you see, objectivism. And I'm just sitting there like, man, I think it has so much more to say about how sort of like a fundamental interest in money or self-interest can destroy any principled system if they're in the right place at the right time.
Well, yeah, it like human greed ultimately is going to it's going to prevent any utopia from ever fully forming and being maintained, because ultimately people are going to want more than their fair share.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be people who want to rise to positions of power that they perhaps don't deserve, or they want to control others, they want to corner markets. And yeah, like you say, then the conflict you have is like, I can stop this, but then it means sacrificing not just my principles, but like compromising on individual freedom in order to keep everyone essentially safe. So those are just like fundamental questions about the nature of how humans live and how we like the flaws that we exist in, and the how that manifests in our day-to-day lives. It doesn't have to be about one specific political idea that it is right or wrong. That's good writing because it delves into like just the most fundamental of questions. It's not just like, you should feel a certain way about this particular socio-political cause because I feel that way as the writer, and I'm going to make sure that you feel guilty if you don't agree with me.
And
That's
to
shit
clarify,
writing.
there are executions of stories that I will probably love that I could probably name, but not off the top of my head necessarily, that are all about like criticisms of capitalism. But it's not when a character says like, oh, what was the line in Across the Spider-Verse? I think they look at a black hole and one of them says it's a metaphor for capitalism. It's like, okay, good for you, I guess. Like it's just the most like useless sort of approach on talking about any subject that relates to that. That's one aspect. But then there's also when people just say like, I hate capitalism and it's bad and the cause for every problem. You could even go as far as saying like, what was that? Is that even in character for that person? They might make someone like Indiana Jones have to deal with he's a evil grave robber or something, and you just be like, what the fuck? That doesn't line up with anything. What I'm trying to say is it sometimes doesn't even matter if you agree or disagree with whatever particular point of view that's being expressed. It can just feel fucking out of place. Like you can have really bad things that do agree with you, like shit stories that agree with you completely. That's possible too.
I think one that stuck with me weirdly was from The Last of Us, where they go to this like commune type place where Joel's brother is, and they're like describing how the place functions, and it's like, no, that sounds like communism to me, and it's like, no, it's not like that. And then the woman is just like, yeah, we're literally communists. This is a commune. That's what this is. And it's like, no, it's not. You're just trying to push that in because like that's the way the writers want to try and promote this stuff. But it's like you're missing the bigger point of like, well, it works in this particular survival situation because you've got a small group of people who are forced to work together and cooperate in order to stay alive.
Yeah, they've got to pool
there's a difference
basically
between
all of their property and resources in order to best survive as a collective. But That
Yeah,
you wouldn't
like
scale
you
that up
can't.
to all of Earth. That would be insane.
Yeah, like I can guarantee you, if somehow they cured this plague, and they were able to reestablish society, and spread out and so on, the people who are here would not be happy living under your sort of like primitive communist rule, where they have to give up all of their private property just to survive. Like once
Yeah,
you get
like
beyond that basic survival level, they would be like, yeah, I want stuff again that's like earned by me. I want the opportunity to have more than just the basic needs of staying alive.
when there's 5 of you, and some days you don't get as much water as you'd like. Anybody who's hoarding water and saying it's my property isn't going to last long.
Yeah.
That's just a reality, and that's okay when you're at that point. But when you're at a point of fucking a huge society with different borders, civilizations, and histories, it's like, yeah, you're not going to be. You can't just be like, aha, communism. And so a lot of people interpret that was part of what's going on there, and who knows, because the writers have a lot of crazy ideas about different things. But it didn't need to be in there as a line, so you do wonder why. But at the same time, as long as you got Tommy saying, though it's not, and it's like there's a sense of cringe, like it's
Yeah.
So I wonder how much of that is intentional, what they were doing. I haven't listened to like the audio commentary or anything, but I'm sure they would tell you.
I think it's like, I can pretty much guarantee that the writers were patting themselves on the back once they got that line in there.
Probably.
Just like, yeah, we did it, guys. Strike one for the cause. Blindsight says, if they would have chopped off one or both of Sabine's hands, that could have been the motivator for both her and Ahsoka to reinvest in her force training, as she has to drastically adapt. Ugh, but that's character work. My bad. Sorry.
Legs. Take those legs. Get them both.
Oh, always the legs.
I feel like too many arms and hands have been chopped off. Go for the legs. Get some
I
more
know,
legs.
it's just, you can take off a hand, right, and the character can still like walk around and do things. It's just like it's a bit of an impediment to like basic
That's
tasks.
what I want, though. I want Sabine to suffer. She sucks, and I don't mean that in a way that I want to see her suffer because it would enjoy it. I'd be like, what a great avenue for her to start becoming a character that people can actually empathize with instead of this annoying brat.
Yeah.
Getting your legs chopped off would suck, and watching her suffer with that would actually start to make me feel like, okay, she, as much as I don't like a lot about her, I have to appreciate like she's gone through a lot.
Yeah. Like you say, it's just they're not going to invest that much time in developing her character, and they're not going to have the guts to like have her be injured in such a way as that. Like that's just not going to be allowed.
Nope.
Dark Side of Life says basically Ezra should have been what Luke was in The Last Jedi.
There's more reason for it, because you could argue that over the decade he has lived alone on a planet with a series of stormtroopers and a Grand Admiral that have been trying to kill him, and that he's desperately surviving off basically killing and eating the wildlife, some of which is fucking sentient, and changing cave. You can go this direction. How dark you want to go is up to you, because it is Star Wars, but I think it's ridiculous that he's like wholesome and fine and happy and warm and comfy after the scenario he's apparently been through.
I would have him more of a survivalist rather than just like Luke who's given up and just wants to die.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it should be.
I wouldn't have him given up. I would have part of the point is that he hasn't given up and that he's done everything he can to maintain that same. Because them capturing him maybe could, have a detrimental effect on his goals of trying to keep everything secret and under wraps and everything. But they've failed miserably, and it's not because it's an absolute incapability of writing it. He just never thought to write it. Like, it would never come to his mind. Like, what would Ezra have gone through? It's like Ezra will be fine. He'll be the idolized version that everyone has in their head of what Ezra would be.
Well, we were discussing
a kid who's a good man plus 10 years.
I mean, we were discussing the other night. Like, are they just going to kill him off because there's so little investment in him as a character?
Yeah,
it's like he's just a thing to be like fought over, and is he just going to die as a motivator for Sabine to do something else? She gave up everything to try and get to him, and then he just ends up getting killed again. Probably not. I don't think they'd have the balls to kill him off, but it's just like
one of
his
OCs, right? So he's protective of those guys. But who knows? I feel like a lot of bets are off now. I don't even know that, as I said in the open bar, that Balin's going to die. I was certain he would, but now I'm not sure.
Yeah. It feels like there's more for him to do, but like obviously he's not going to be able to now.
I thought people will see it if they see the reaction for episode 7. When Ahsoka landed next to him, I say something like, "Oh Jesus Christ, please don't kill him!" Like, because that just felt like what was happening now. It's like, well, she lost the first fight, now she'll win this one, and he'll say something like, "Your path is that of death and destruction, truly 100%," and then she'll be like, "Your death, maybe." Spadoosh.
Yeah. Hefip says, side note from when nuclear physics came up, have you all seen the HBO miniseries Chernobyl? If yes, what did you think? I loved it. I gave it a drink of recommends. Dicey Danny says, Thrawn is so many steps ahead that the writing team doesn't even know his master plan. That seems like it, yeah. Nate
Not even kidding. That might be true.
Yeah. You guys all forgot that the hero, Reva, in Obi-Wan cut an innocent civilian's hands off in her attempt to get revenge on the guy who killed innocent bystanders. Yes. Reva, the real hero.
Fucking moronic writing, man. It's just what we were talking about. Like, does the show know? Do you know?
Do you see? Samurai D-Phil, it's not about natural families anymore. It's about found families. That's their plan. The lack of acceptance from their own. Movies ooze this now. Interesting. Mega Spidey Man says, hiya lads. Apparently Cena's coming back as Peacemaker, Davis as Waller, Zolo as Beetle, and Stroma as Vigilante. No Henry Cavill, though. Yeah.
Why would you want him?
Just bring back everyone from the James Gunn projects in more James Gunn productions. It's crazy, I know. Eric Sheedlow says, Smokey, what did you think of Ahsoka? Doggo lifts his head and slightly opens eyes, then thinks better of it and drifts off to sleep again. I concur. It's forgettable and a snoozer. Yeah, he's got the right idea.
We was mentioned, though, he got a bit aggressive about TLJ when that got brought up. He was losing it. You know, I have to respect that. He's got a lot of integrity, that dog.
You didn't want to be around him that day, that's for sure. He was grouchy. Neil Oakley says they bought a cash cow but didn't feed it. True, yeah. Oh, they fed it like fucking poison.
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas says, but there was a Holdo maneuver in The Rise of Skywalker, Mauler.
Whoa.
Hateful Artist says, hello, long-time donor, first-time viewer. Cheers. Thank you. Intelligent Crayon Eater. For Mauler, how good is YouTube for protecting your read identity? I would love to start a channel, but my employer, the US government, wouldn't approve of it.
You're concerned that they would use whatever you do on a YouTube channel against you career-wise, is what you're saying? Or
I assume so, yeah.
Well, that's tough. I wouldn't want to make any reassurances or promises these days because as far as I can tell, it's only getting worse in terms of people finding out everything you do in your life and using it against you. So if you're very worried that you wouldn't be able to express yourself freely online without it being used to maybe screw up your career, that could be a legitimate worry. I know people have been fired for things they say on Twitter and stuff, as we all know. But I mean, you can work at it. Just maybe change your voice up a bit and never use your real name.
Yeah.
You know,
if you're going to get monetized, though, you have to put your details in, don't you? So,
right, yeah,
tricky. Doogie says 1994. I guess we were talking about favorite years for movies. Gump, Fiction, Ed Wood, Lion King, and top it off, Shawshank Redemption. Case closed. You make some compelling arguments. Mark of Reality says, we haven't had any new franchises since the 70s and 80s. Tolkien was long before that, and we had Star Wars, The Terminator, Alien, Predator, etc. Still a lot of sequels and a lot of remakes.
Yeah.
I think that fucking blew my mind that they're remaking The Office. Fucking why? Like, what are you going to achieve from that?
You can't remake The Office. Not possible. You just never get away with it. So why would you even claim to?
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine like a 2023 version of The Office? Like how fucking bland and sanitized it would be.
Yeah, it's going to be
just
terrible.
Get Mindy Kaling to write it. Like, why not?
Boy.
Blank says, I'm very happy to catch this airing live. I wanted to recommend The Raid. It's Indonesian action film, far better than The Expendables and treats Ewo right. It's it's definitely better than The Expendables 4, as you mentioned. That's not a high benchmark, but The Raid's a good film.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was horrendously bad, Expendables 4.
Yes.
That might be an example of Yeah, that might be an example of a movie that you wouldn't disagree with at all in terms of quote unquote agenda, but that is fucking horrific to watch. Like,
Yeah.
good God, that's one of the most like shallow and hollow films I've ever seen. There's like no artistry in there. It's all just fucking thin and
There's no
crap.
fun. Like,
No.
honestly, everyone involved just looks like so miserable.
Yeah.
It's like they knew what they were making with that one. Like, I don't know if they were contractually bound to do it or whatever, but like they couldn't have looked like they gave less of a shit.
And weird choice to call it Expend 4 Balls.
Yeah. It's kind of like Fant Four Stick. Just
Mhm.
stop doing that. Stop with the gimmicky titles.
Nobody likes that. Stop.
Zodlander says the 90s was great for me. It was my teen years and I laughed my ass off.
Okay, yeah.
just like being a teenager and just laughing about it.
He's just laughing non-stop. Just like, you're a funny guy.
It was just a joyous time. Watching all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, what was your first horror films and did they scare you or make you laugh?
First horror film. It's a tough one because I can't remember what would have been first. But I know super early on I watched Alien and Aliens, and
Yeah.
I did not find Aliens scary. I just thought it was awesome.
I think
I had,
Poltergeist might have been my first one. I was definitely too young to watch that.
See,
but
it's so weird to think about because like I didn't find Predator scary at all. I just thought it was awesome. And it's like
Yeah.
considered action horror, and it does have some severe gore in it and body horror, and it's just like, yeah, but it's so cool.
Yeah. Like big guys with guns go brrr.
Yeah,
Oh,
big
that was-
alien go brr.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really saw it as a horror movie as such. Like you say, although there is gore in it and stuff, it's more just I saw it as action sci-fi, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fan with no name says another idea for Nolan to tackle: Godzilla. He knows war movies, paradigm-changing sci-fi, and he has proven that he can handle iconic characters.
These are the kind of things that I'd like to try. Probably, like I wouldn't mind seeing a Godzilla movie from Tarantino. I wonder what he'd do. But then I don't know if I want to waste. Like in a sense, I want everything from everyone just to see what we get, like a whole jumble.
Can we have? Yeah, did we discuss Nolan doing Star Trek?
I don't think we did. I don't know, but sure,
we should have. We should have discussed that. Like, I would be very intrigued
right now if you wanted to.
Well, I'd love to see his take on Star Trek. I mean, he obviously understands the science, like probably more than he should. Yeah, I think he could do some interesting reality bending stuff. Like that's the whole point of Star Trek, isn't it? It's supposed to like push the very limits of like our understanding of the universe.
I was actually with Gary on his take on Oppenheimer with the one thing that he said about how it would have been nice to have had more science in Oppenheimer that was explainable. He cited that there was only really the one scene where they talk about like the glass and everything, and I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I don't really feel like I know anything else about how nuclear bombs work or atomic bombs work. But I know a lot more, I guess, about Oppenheimer as a character, and I think Nolan would probably be like, well, that was my goal. And I'd be like, no, I know, but it would be cool to throw in some stuff about.
Yeah, well, pick up a few pointers for making my own bomb at some point.
Exactly. How am I to make an atomic bomb without the help of Nolan?
Yeah.
Sometimes he's so selfish.
I know. He's like, come on, share the knowledge. Stanky Puisa says, as Canadians, are you working class bagged milkers or are you elitist jug milkers? Do you get bags of milk? That seems like a really inefficient way to carry it around.
Bag of, I think like a Tesco bag, you fill it up with
trying to pour it out and it's just like slopping everywhere. Oh god, it's happening again.
They should make jugs for this.
Yeah. That's the elitist mindset, clearly. Toxic Monger of the Hateful Something says, don't donate more. How dare you? I will. All right, thank you. And last of all is Jimba, who says, it's amazing how fast a 3-hour live stream goes. Finally managed to catch this one live. Thanks for keeping me entertained throughout a difficult time in my life. Here's 50 Australian dollars, which is probably about £3 in your money. Well, no, I appreciate it, man. I'm glad we can keep you a little bit entertained. And thank you for the donation. And thank you to everyone else who gave us all those lovely super chats on the evening. Very much appreciate it as always. And yeah, we'll be back with more soon. But in the meantime, that is all we've got for this evening. So go away now.
Bye.